Thank you for that. Thank you for your kindness. I was listening to the panel speak about their delight in being involved in the panel, and I echo that. I'm like, oh my, like I want to take pictures and show my mother, except my mom's not here, but you know what I mean. So I'm very excited to be amongst you tonight. I want to echo the acknowledgement that you began with, Yusuf. It's very important that I recognize on behalf of the church that the Pacific Mountain Regional Council and our member communities reside within and among a complex network of indigenous communities that have relations that go back many millennia. We acknowledge that this is unceded territory, and very few lands have entered in a treaty relationship with the British Crown or Canada. We remember on behalf of the church that we are visitors and guests in this homeland for many indigenous families, and we reside by the grace and goodwill of the First Nations, some of who have sought relationships within the missionary arm of the United Church of Canada. In his book, Embers, Ojibwe author Richard Wagami shares wisdom from one of his elders. It's necessary to repeat the important things 3 times. He writes, you listen the first time and you become aware. That's for your head. You hear the second time. You hear the second time and you awaken. That's for your heart. You feel the third time and it becomes a part of you. That's for your spirit. 3 times. So you learn to listen with your whole being. I want to offer a couple of personal stories. In grade 8, I was the editor of my junior high school yearbook. It was called Queen Elizabeth's Pollution Protest at the height of the acid rain controversies. We were just beginning to hear about its detrimental effects, and my fellow yearbook geeks wanted to make a statement. Maybe I listened the first time, and that was for my head, and I became aware. In 1994, my young family went on a camping trip to the west coast of Vancouver Island, Pacific Rim National Park Reserve. I had not been paying attention much at all, but my 8-year-old son Jordan had been. He knew we'd be driving right by the site of the protest against harvesting old growth forests in the Clayoquot Sound. When his little eyes spied the protest camp, he screamed at the top of his lungs, "There it is, Dad! You have to stop the car now!" I was pulling a tent trailer on a very windy road, and I came careening to a stop. He nearly got run over by the traffic because he was out the door before I had the car in park. Was he ever angry that they told him he was too young to sign the petition? He's been a contributor to the World Wildlife Fund since he had his first bank account at the age of 12, and he now works for the National Park, the Canada Parks Canada, as a creator of programs and products, discovery products. His argument: people can't love the earth if they don't know it. So maybe I heard the second time, and that was from my heart, and I was awakened. When I heard of the gruesome discovery in Kamloops last Friday, the bodies of 215 children in a mass unmarked grave, my heart stopped. And I have been unable to think of much else. I realized that colonization not only brought with it a complete disregard for whole cultures and people, colonization brought with it a whole level of disregard for Mother Earth, our home. I'm pretty sure last Friday, I felt the third time. And it was for my spirit. It's become part of me. The first story of creation in the scriptures talks about how on the sixth day God created humankind in God's image. With June being Pride Month across the country, this part of the story is pivotal. Then God said, let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness. And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the air and over the cattle and over all the wild animals of the earth. So God created humankind in God's image. In the image of God, they were created. Male and female, they were created. Note the non-binary nature of God. But I also want you to notice that humankind was given dominion. But we were to have dominion in the image and likeness of God, in the way that God would have dominion. And how do we feel about things we create ourselves? So for me, that's a call to faithful stewardship. Now, although we're far from an ideal institution, when the United Church of Canada added a line to our own creed, which calls us to live with respect in creation, we began to give legs by recognizing and supporting environmental causes. In 2015, the church voted to divest completely from fossil fuels and has committed to reducing its own greenhouse gas emissions by 80% by 2050. In 2018, the church started its Faithful Footprints grant program, which offers up to $30,000 to congregations trying to make environmentally friendly renovations to the buildings that they have. We have $3 million in that fund already. And then, formed in 2019, the United Property Resource Corporation was founded by the church, and it prioritizes the development of safe, stable, affordable housing and works in partnership with faith communities across the country, helping us to reimagine our real estate for positive community impact and to meet community housing and social needs. UPRC is committed to delivering 5,000 affordable housing units nationwide by 2037. But not only that, these housing projects are going to be built with net zero standards in those to help combat climate change. And that includes renewable energy, the design of solar-ready projects, geo-exchange heating and cooling, passive ventilation, daylighting, solar heating in the winter, carbon reduction, operational carbon, it will be zero on-site carbon emissions, all electric buildings. We will build with mass timber, low carbon insulation, all that kind of stuff. You know, sometimes the church has been really good at telling governments, businesses, and other nonprofits what it should be doing. We're good at that, raging. But for my part, I think it's just more important for us to be faithful to our own creed. Our relationship with creation is a spiritual matter, calling people of all faiths to ground our practices in a sacred relationship with the ground of our being. And so may God help us as we respond faithfully to this call. May God help us if we don't.